been terrorized, threatened at this location, and I wanted to say that this is a new threat. There was a threat in the neighborhood of transporting me to the Palmistry place. There's an O'Reilly's threat, a Dancing Bears threat, and these are all by the Aurora Avenue North, Seattle, Washington, 9813. I don't think those places, I don't think people are innocent because it wouldn't be such. Oops. Don't mind. There's regard apartments located behind the place. Set of apartments, sort of big square things, and they have big picture windows. I think one way that might be one of the contacts from what I'm hearing. And then there was a dentistry threat over, and it was a threat to my teeth so it couldn't be traced, and to punish me, and by blood. And I actually, from what I heard, I think that they have as a contact that is in with blood and comes and visits with these bags. So I think there is an actual established dentist that visits here. And I'm not saying I'm not saying anything about the person. I think it's a different one. And it's somebody possibly who visits the scumbags, probably involved in acting as if he is police, along with the rest of the that's behavior, to act as though one is a policeman or some sort of other expert in practice out of one's scope. If one is professional, yet a blood giver. I have actually seen professionals or semi-professionals pretend to be police, even just people just like in this building. They're just retarded psychopaths. And I've seen security guards pretend they're the police. But there's definitely a dental connection, definitely a connection with the industry and involved in humans. So, Dancing Bear down the street is connected as well, and Arco, and so that doesn't, mean. Well, I'm not going to surmise. I'm going to give anyone the benefit of the doubt. It's when just like the name harboring up over and over, and the name Kathy and William names, Kathy and Williams keep coming up. William, and those were people at Burt Gilman and there, but they were at 5143 Kathy Cox and William Smith. Kathy is a cheap prostitute-looking person, white. Oh, she smells also of fecal and urine usually, and she smells of cheap perfume, typical, as they call it, white t-shirt, and try to dominate. Typical bums, and they definitely were bloods. And as several of the other people, another person named Nell, and she was involved. Well, she had a boyfriend that was not as, I hate to say this, not even as, looked, similar to Norman Psycho, but he looked like he had a problem. Pasty pale with hair, and it looked like he had a mental problem. And so did Nell. And her boyfriend used to record conversations from listening scam and then they would catch conversations. One time I heard someone back and with this conversation, and she was playing policeman. I think there was a dirty cop connection, a dirty nerd was with Crip connections. apartments. And I know about mold. Also, Kathy Cox and William Smith were threatening me. Well, I've been names because the people are threatening William Smith and Kathy Cox. And Kathy Cox is in 3403. I remember. I haven't lived. I had an anti-harassment order against her by default because she didn't show up for it. She's a methadone patient that her boyfriend William Smith, and one of the threats about heroin and going to Kathy's, and there have been quite a few threats of going to Kathy to suggest that people would know each other because we have to realize in heroin programs to get perhaps the Pike Place Market Senior Center or maybe the methadone. But I do think there is a that they've, and he's connecting to recognition. So. And I've been terrorized at the senator's room around the apartment, around the bathroom. I've shown it before, and I have people that were hanging out in the janitor's room tried to terrorize me. Well, there are some big, and the rapist thought they would inject me with heroin, and a couple of them, one was a bulging-eyed black male, not they're all black people. I think he's 5'9" or 10, stocky and fat, and black male, sort of a reddish tint to his hair. It's slight, and pug nose, not attractive. And he actually is involved. And he this is what he does. He and his friends will take, and they will move the person's bottom down while being raped. They'll moving the bottom to make it look on date rape drugs. They've threatened for 3 years, threatened with something called them Ruthies. And some of them, like the knockout drugs or all induce. I've been told that some of them are legal now. I got into a kid's book from the 70s. I mean, it's a book, an adult's book about something, rohypnol or something. But these are definitely in on drugs, including some that would produce or the appearance of an orgasm. The victim being raped would look as though they're enjoying a sexual encounter. They're very foul, always, not just to do with raping, but they're child molesters. They're generally connected to child molestation, so are the Zetas, and they're connected, sought to destroy. You might laugh in the Bloods. Well, they don't care about whites that are destroyed if they're not their fate, along with the Blackies or whatever Nazi destroy whites or others that aren't their fate. Because, in fact, the Bloods like to make threats toward different countries. They've threatened countries. It's the list. It's ridiculous. Wales, Europe. They've threatened the rest of the UK besides England and part of Ireland. Threatened Greece. They've threatened Turkey. They've threatened constantly, and the goal is to try to take over. And the agenda of the Bloods people as possible internets that are almost like they're hypnotized, and they're very cult-like, but they are very much into Satanism, and that that many were involved in Satanism prior to 13 years ago, when I became aware that they were quite Satanist, the Zetas as well. And so I would like to state that the devil is not just your stereotypical practitioner, or you will blacks and in-betweens in the Bloods and the Zetas are devil worshippers, and they're very much into bodily fluids, especially their own, and they love semen, they love other people's blood, and their plasma and their spinal fluid. They're going to achieve magic through those fluids. They love defiling water, food of other people with such bodily fluids, phlegm or mucus building at 105 Washington, about how they have on it, or foul human fluid that nobody wants to encounter in their home. In fact, there is a white male. He has a head. I've heard that he's a special ed person. He's never in his life. Housebreaking. He likes to put sperm in the suitcase. He also likes to put semen in the water supply, and he's seeking by putting it into their water. He's very special ed. But this theme is very prevalent within the blood. Not only do they like things like that, people, and they've bragged that, because I encountered them, they boasted, like bathroom. When I was a kid, I didn't even, people go in an infantile stage of curiosity. I really think the Satanists don't lead like, oh, what happens with bodily fluids when people, we have to understand most of these people are also men. I like someone is an moron, the soul, and of Hugh curve, and advanced, that determining whether someone was an infidel or a moron. And I would like to state many of the Bloods and Zetas are morons, and that may be very easy to manipulate, to sort of, including with or possibly other drugs, and sort of like you cannot sway them from the foul. Find these people in social services that are involved in gangs. They are cleverly hiding, but they absolutely cannot manage their own lives. And, a lot of books and drugs. And 40 years ago, probably would have been people who would have been in institutions their entire lives. America accepted them, embraced them, and fostered them. And, they are the U.S. And indeed, as the standards of the U.S. got lower and people were absolutely raised, and psychiatrists and psychologists and other semi-professionals that will cover up for these people, especially if, that person is doing a crime for that social worker, psychiatrist, or psychologist, or perhaps in coerced, or beaten by, they then will definitely cover. So America will cover for the insane, especially if those people are drug addicts. They will then present them as utterly sane once they have stopped allegedly taking that or that drug. What I found is that within, and I'm not a alcoholic or a drug addict, and I'm not an expert. What I have found is that a quote soda drug in its place. Sometimes it can be supposedly like cigarette. I myself not an alcoholic, and I never have been. When it's not an innocent trade-in. Quite a lot of people that are very proud of their sobriety, and then they've launched into use and selling it and going crazy without it and literally drooling for it. And then I've also seen the other side where they're no longer taking meth, but they're taking other things, and they're very proud that they're not meth, but maybe they've become an alcoholic, or they started injecting, or they're in on maybe a maintained dose, or maybe they're no longer heroin, methadone, and something else. So a lot of it seems to trade in. I know that America is just members.